Hello everyone and welcome back to the series. Before we begin, a big thanks to my channel members for their continued support. During our time recounting NIKKE's story, we've seen many forms of tragedy, from losing close allies, bidding farewell to dear friends, and slowly witnessing the weight of the world settle on the shoulders of both the commander and counters. This world is dark and sinister, and around every corner lay a new form of evil ready to strike. For humanity, there is one place they can feel at ease, the Ark, humanity's final safe haven, a place out of the Rapture's reach. Or at least, that's what the public are led to believe. Humanity's safe haven had been breached, yet the perpetrators weren't the Raptures, but the greed of humanity itself. All citizens in the Ark are advised to move to designated shelters to avoid any casualties, all of this being a part of Siwyn's plan, one to restore Matisse's name at all costs. With the Ark thrown into a sense of panic, Siwyn is ready to enact her plan. Against the concerns of Rianne, Siwyn launches a broadcast of her own from a drone Maxwell had set up to broadcast Matisse and the commander's heroic journey. Siwyn is practically glued to the television screen as the broadcast begins, and honestly, all joking and ranting aside, this is probably the most disgusting action Siwyn's done in the story thus far. The Ark isn't by any means a place void of corruption and evil, however, it's the final place for humanity to be free from the tyranny of Raptures, and Siwyn entirely disregards that, risking everything to simply save her reputation through Matisse. Siwyn begins giving her speech to the citizens of the Ark. She urges the people to be at ease, stating that she'd sent the very best to keep the Raptures at bay. And with this, we flash back 24 hours prior to this broadcast, giving full context on how exactly Matisse and the Ark wound up in this situation. Matisse and the commander are up on the surface, recounting the mission Siwyn had given to them. Unsurprisingly, Laplace is excited, eager to once more be a hero for humanity. Once Matisse reaches her designated location, Siwyn advises them to make contact with her. Keep in mind, this is also Siwyn can broadcast just how great the saviors of the Ark are. Saviors created by Missilus Industries. From the shadows, Countess is still following behind Matisse, and it's clear that they're in opposition to this abysmal plan to make Matisse heroes again. Despite their feelings, they must uphold their end of the deal and support the commander without interfering with Siwyn's little schemes. With the blackmail Siwyn had fabricated, it could very well destroy the commander's reputation if she leaked it in a fit of rage. Rappy advises the commander to notify counters should anything go south. Sensing things are off with the commando unit, Maxwell can only guess that they're hiding something from them. However, they may not be at liberty to say what it is. After all, as Maxwell puts it, this is Siwyn's style of conducting business. While continuing onward, Laplace states that she feels a bit uneasy, which of course surprises both Drake and Maxwell. Laplace chalks it up to being all the excitement swelling within her. However, after a short period, she reconsiders that statement. Once more, Laplace's stomach is bothering her, and Drake's bright idea to remedy this is just for Laplace to throw up, which she does. Maxwell apologizes to the commander for witnessing her two teammates acting this way, and with this quick remedy, Laplace seems to be a bit better, raring to go once more. Eventually, the team make it to the facility, and it appears to be fairly run down. Due to the dilapidated state of the building, Matisse questions if they're in the right location, to which Siwyn affirms. As the group moves in, Siwyn advises counters to wait outside and guard the entrance. Of course, counters aren't too happy with this decision. Siwyn is deliberately using counters as rapture bait to ensure that her plan follows through smoothly. While standing guard, counters can't help but feel uneasy about this entire situation. Maxwell is already suspicious of the details, and Neon feels that they should just come clean and tell Matisse. This, however, would be a very risky move, and could result in more harm than good befalling the commando unit. Surprisingly, despite its rough exterior, the machines within the facility seem to be in working order. As Matisse and the commander scout the area, Siwyn chimes in and leads the group to a button near the main operating system. She advises them to only push that button and nothing else. Totally not suspicious at all. Maxwell, still skeptical of this entire scenario, advises Sewin that they should run some tests on the machinery in the facility. Due to the age of the place, it would be better for them to make sure everything is in working order. But of course, Sewin cuts Maxwell off. Sewin snaps at Maxwell, which only causes her to press Sewin further. Maxwell begins to ask Sewin about the logistics of the mission and its purpose, but Laplace being, well, Laplace, tells Maxwell to stop psyching herself out. Unfortunately for Maxwell, the only one with common sense in the group, Laplace is entirely infatuated with Sewin's plan. Once again, I'm going to spare you from Laplace's monologue for both your and my mental sanity. Laplace starts an entire thank you speech to Sewin for trusting them to become heroes once more. As Laplace goes to push a button, she shifts into a hero monologue about how they'll become great heroes with its defensive wall being erected. And with this heroic action, Matisse will be seen as heroes once more. With Laplace pressing the button, a sudden sound rings out through the entire area. You know, let's flash back a few chapters. Remember when Sewin sounded out a f***ing alarm to draw raptures to counters? Yup, we're doing it again. This time, the stakes are just a tiny bit higher. Of all places, this call signal is coming from the Arc. Yes, Sewin just baited her prize NIKKE squad to summon raptures to the Arc. Infuriated, Maxwell demands an answer from the commander, now affirming her previous suspicions of him withholding information from them. There is no defensive wall, and there was no secret mission to help erect it, but a ruse to draw Matisse to call raptors directly to the final stronghold humanity had left to protect. Remember the events of Overzone? You know, the actual roller coaster Dorothy and the remainder of Goddess went to ensure humanity's safety? Well, shout out to Sewin for literally spitting in the faces of those who risked and lost everything to establish it. Laplace is stunned by the looming realization that she actively launched a signal call, taking responsibility for what is about to happen. Laplace, you may be dumb and hero-driven, but this isn't your fault. Blame your pathetic excuse of a fucking CEO. Maxwell's anger shifts towards her boss once more, still demanding an explanation. But instead, Sewin tells him that there's no time, and demands that they leave the facility. The group hears a loud boom, the facility beginning to collapse on itself. Laplace suddenly feels a numb sensation where she had been stabbed by Material H, and has a brief flashback to the incident which nearly killed her in Chapter 12. Maxwell yells for everyone to evacuate, but Laplace is frozen in place. She cannot bring her body to move. This isn't any form of corruption by the Raptures, but instead, Laplace is feeling fear. With her cries towards Laplace falling on deaf ears, Maxwell continues to attempt to snap her leader out of this daze. Having no time left to waste, Drake simply carries Laplace out of the facility as the group narrowly escapes its collapse. Regrouping with counters following the facility's collapse, Maxwell remarks how the commander knew all of this would happen. To Maxwell, it was painted on his painful expression that he wore throughout this mission. At a loss of what their next action should be, Sewin once more chimes in. She tells the group that they need to stop the Raptures. Wow! Great deduction, Sewin! Here, a fucking gold star for you! Sewin tries to give the whole heroic speech of why Matisse will be heroes if they save the Ark. But at this point, Maxwell is far past all of Sewin's bullshit. She lambasts Sewin, laying a barrage of questions demanding to know why Sewin had lied to them. Sewin's retort is that even if she did tell them, they wouldn't have agreed with it, which Maxwell immediately states against. Noticing Laplace's deteriorating state, the commander asks if she is okay, to which Laplace confirms. Despite this, Maxwell notices that Laplace is sweating bullets. Brushing off her team's concerns, Laplace just wants to press forward, to ensure the safety of the Ark's citizens. Safety that was threatened to them by one of the big three CEOs. Suddenly, Laplace collapses, only to get back on her feet shortly after. She admits that she's a little shaken up, remembering a past operation. Maxwell asks if she remembers when she got corrupted. Dodging the question, Laplace states that everything is fine, chalking it up to being a side effect of having their nymph removed. Laplace keeps trying to ensure the team that she's okay. Even with this fickle reassurance, Maxwell and Drake still remain wary. Neither of them are feeling the same symptoms that Laplace is experiencing, and Maxwell chalks it up to Laplace simply being afraid. Nymph is no longer present in the members of Matisse, and for those of you unaware, it also acted as a catalyst to fend off their fears. Laplace is back in a corner, and to her, being a hero means rushing into battle while others would cower in fear. She can't be the one hesitating to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Despite this line of thinking, Laplace feels she needs to prove herself and rushes forward into an oncoming battle. As Laplace stands before a crowd of raptures, she starts her heroic monologue. However, this time, fear gets the better of her. She attempts to shake off her fear, but to no avail. She feels her body going numb as she tries to psych herself up. Laplace's armor also isn't deploying. There is no response, and no matter how hard she tries, she can't seem to get it to deploy. Eventually, Laplace snaps. Within the confines of her own mind, she begins to hear voices. These words repeat in her head, the haunting memory of her encounter with Material H in Chapter 12, and her corruption. Laplace slowly lets fear consume her as she screams for the raptors to stay back. The voices in her head then shift, hauntingly repeating the phrase, "I'm going to die." Luckily, Drake catches up to Laplace and engages in battle with the raptors before them. Following the encounter, Maxwell once more tells Laplace that they should conduct some maintenance on her. Maxwell is furious, having just witnessed the leader of her squad nearly killed by raptors she easily had dispatched before. Of course, the little arrogant shit chimes in once more to cut Maxwell off, saying that there's no time. She urges the group to get a move on. However, Maxwell raises a good point. If Laplace collapses in combat, what should their course of action be? Of course, self-absorbed little shit-stained Sewin dismisses Maxwell's worry, stating that Laplace is a hero and immune to fear. It's only when Laplace tells Sewin about her weapon system that the brat finally shuts her mouth. Laplace recounts how NIKKEs really do need Nymph and how without it, she's nothing but a coward. Sewin, with no ounce of sympathy, lambasts Matisse for all of this occurring. If they don't fix the issue and save the Ark, Enoch won't forgive them. I'm sorry, am I... them? Them. Hey, Sewin, this is your fault. Anise snaps at Sewin, stating that this is all her doing. Her hands will have the blood of the innocent on them should Matisse not save the Ark in time. Sewin states that if she goes down, everyone goes down with her, and she fully intends on seeing that through should this plan fail. She will frame the commander for the events that just transpired in the Research Institute. With Sewin's temper tantrum over, she cuts communications, leaving the group heated to say the very least. Gathering their bearings, they decide to find a place to conduct proper maintenance. Luckily, the group finds a nearby facility to rest and conduct maintenance. Maxwell, upon finishing a cursory checkup, concludes that all systems are green, meaning that it's not an internal malfunction that caused Laplace's armor to not deploy. Hearing this news doesn't exactly raise Laplace's spirits. In fact, if anything, it causes her to slump deeper into her depressive state. She states how her weakness is the reason why her weapon system didn't deploy, and with a downcast expression worn on the face of the normally jovial hero, Laplace leaves the room to do some self-reflection. Evidently, none of the members of Matisse are exactly in high spirits at the moment. Maxwell follows shortly after, stating she too needs to clear her head. The normally goofy demeanor Drake has had also evaporated, now displaying a look of seriousness. Drake stops halfway out of the door and states that she's off in the corner on the right. Even in a dark moment, Drake still wants to ensure Laplace is okay, and she entrusts that to the only person left she could turn to, the commander. Making his way to comfort the fallen hero, the commander takes his seat next to Laplace. Laplace tries to get the commander not to move closer to her. She knows she can't protect him, and this is probably the most devastating blow Laplace can receive. The once loud and energetic Laplace is now reduced to this, her voice quiet and shaky, her mind filled with the stir of emotions. Laplace continues to profusely apologize to the commander, stating that everything is her fault, and how she ruined everything by being so weak. Keep in mind, Sewin paid this no attention and simply belittled the group for not getting shit done. Laplace is in this bad of a mental state, and the one she looked up to the most casted her aside. Laplace continues, stating that without Nymph, she's no hero. She's weak and fragile. Not wavering, the commander attempts once more to comfort her. He asks if she really believes her courage came from Nymph. To Laplace, this statement holds true. However, the commander has another line of thinking. He brings up a very good point here. Back when Laplace was corrupted, she still found the strength to save everyone and fight through it. As a quick reminder, corruption actively implants the code into NIKKE's brain. This also messes with NIMP and its actions over the NIKKE as well. The fact that Laplace was able to fight through it and fend off corruption temporarily doesn't mean that the NIMP had miraculously continued operation, but instead, that Laplace's willpower alone had allowed her to do so. He calls Laplace the ultimate hero, and to this, Laplace seems to go through a sudden episode, running off as Maxwell and Drake watch from afar. After a brief lull, regrouping, Maxwell apologizes to the commander on behalf of Matisse. She says that if the commander had told them the truth, Matisse wouldn't have gone along with the plan. Despite their dire situation, the group has to come up with some course of action to save the Ark. After a brief moment of contemplation, they devise a strategy to take down the Raptures. Instead of attempting to cut out the Raptures as they're advancing towards the Ark, the group will instead ambush them from the rear. This is also due to the fact that the Raptors don't know the exact location of the Ark, so creating a commotion will cause the Raptors to think they're going the wrong way and turn them around. Using the assets that they have, Maxwell calls out to Sewin, instructing her to inform Matisse of the Raptors pathing towards the Ark. Despite Sewin's less than ideal attitude, Maxwell knows she can rely on her since there's a benefit for the brat as well. With this, the group sets out to enact their plan. The plan, so far, seems to be working. Eliminating the Raptors from the rear, the group is swiftly catching up to the leading group, which mainly consists of Lord-type Raptors. Maxwell and Drake are raring to go. However, Laplace seems very hesitant. Maxwell hands Laplace a gun and proceeds to try and encourage her the best way that she can. Maxwell is a very blunt and critical NIKKE. Once being a researcher of Missless, she relies on the information gathered around her to assess and tackle situations. In this case, she critiques Laplace on her actions thus far, and how her obsession with being a hero has acted as a detriment here. She also points out the good qualities in Laplace too, and that, despite Laplace not wanting to be a hero, she still perseveres, being the strongest NIKKE that the Ark has, a beacon of hope for all those aspiring to commit heroic acts just like Laplace had before. The commander also encourages her, giving her a gentle push forward, ensuring that he has Laplace's back as well. As the group continues to push forward, they eventually encounter a Tyrant-class Rapture, codenamed Stormbringer. The group is shocked that the calling signal had brought forth a Rapture like this. Maxwell sends the drones up to capture the fight and tells the commander that Stormbringer is no joke. She also states that there's a chance they won't be able to protect him. Maxwell advises the commander to find cover, and if he can't, then run. With Laplace still shaking, frozen with fear, Matisse begins their encounter with Stormbringer. Against all odds, the team successfully brings Stormbringer down. Amazed that they survived, the commander tells Laplace good job, trying to raise her spirits. Despite this, Laplace is still downcast, stating that she didn't shoot a single bullet. She didn't do anything. She can't do anything without Nymph. Despite Laplace's state, Maxwell says they should just be happy to be alive, and with Stormbringer defeated, something still doesn't feel right. Drake's body is still tingly, and she remains on guard. Something is closing in fast on the group, and the current state Matisse encounters are in, this fight may be their last. There were even more Raptures than they anticipated. Maxwell tells the group to run and advises Laplace to grab the commander. Laplace begins to panic, screaming and firing her gun at the approaching Raptures, randomly shooting, trying to keep them at bay. Maxwell yells to Laplace that she's drawing the Raptors' attention, but she's stuck in her manic episode as Rapture fixes his gun on her and fires. Drake yells for Laplace to move, but unfortunately, this cry falls on deaf ears. The commander rushes forward and pushes Laplace out of the way, once more being shot. This poor man just can't catch a break. The commander falls to the ground, being shot literally in the same area where Crow had injured him 2 chapters prior. Laplace is in shock and rushes over to the commander. She asks why the commander saved her. She is no hero, so why? Why did he put himself in harm's way simply to save her life? The commander is losing consciousness, a feeling all too familiar to him. He tells Laplace not to give up, and with the last of his strength, he lifts his arm to point at Laplace's heart. he tells her the hero isn't there. Laplace is still in conflict with herself, not knowing what to do in this situation. While this is occurring, the counters yell for everyone to run. Shaken, Laplace manages to stand up, and the stakes only heighten from there. Laplace once more goes into a severe internal struggle. A new wave of raptures are closing on the group's location, and once more, Laplace is stun-locked, unable to move as Maxwell screams at her to go. Laplace then remembers a word to the commander: "Don't give up. Remember, the hero is inside of you."
Maxwell! What am I doing here? All is lost. I don't even have a nymph. What use could I possibly be? I just want to run away, like I always have. I'm so pathetic. So weak. It's just who I am. But I can't run. You trusted me. I have to protect you.
Don't underestimate this place. If I you deep inside, you will see it start to come alive.
Wait. So, it's all clicking now? I must protect everyone, no matter how great the threat. I will not back down. I can save these people.
Following Matisse's covert operation, we are met with the three CEOs, two of which, unsurprisingly, are furious with Siwyn. Accompanied by Anderson, Ingrid and Mustang begin tearing into her for this insane plan that she enacted. Siwyn states that they were just on the surface to conduct training. Ingrid cuts it straight to Siwyn. They know that she was the one who initiated the call signal, and she demands Siwyn tell them the truth. A situation like this would be severely punished by Enoch's judgment. However, to Siwyn, since she hasn't been summoned yet, she doesn't see Enoch as a threat. In a huff, the brat leaves, once more like the arrogant child that she is. Following this, we are met in the hospital where the commander is recovering. A TV is broadcasting how Matisse's public approval is soaring. Evidently, Siwyn's abysmal suicide plan actually worked. Rightfully so, Neon is angry that the counters were not mentioned. However, in this case, that may be for the best. Suddenly, we hear a familiar voice call out as Laplace makes her grand entrance in the room with a heroic slide. Laplace asks how the commander is feeling, and in turn, the commander asks how Drake and Maxwell are faring. Laplace tells him that they're receiving treatment by Missilis. Recalling how they got into the mess in the first place, Laplace also apologizes to the commander for Siwyn roping them into this little scheme. Laplace, you adorable idiot, it's not your fault your boss is absolute shit. Laplace, as the leader of Matisse, asks them to accept her apology and bows her head. She also states that she will see to it that Siwyn never asks a favor for the commander like this ever again. The commander is still wary of Laplace's mental state, asking if she still fears the raptures. While Laplace states that she is, she also says that she'll try not to be. Laplace opens a window and tells the commander to get well soon. And with that, she literally throws herself out the window, making her grand exit. With Laplace's departure, the commander gets a text message ordering him to pay Anderson a visit next. Although the commander had saved Matisse, the entire Ark was put in jeopardy. For decades, the Ark had remained in a lull, nothing of high importance occurring since its sealing a century ago. However, the commander is now stirring things up once more. Anderson states that he just wanted to see the commander's reaction and know how he felt about the situation. While the commander thinks Anderson should be harsher about the events that transpired, he tells the commander that the Ark is completely walled off and asks him what is the scariest thing about an isolated society. It's not the enemy on the outside, but rather the enemies within. Jealousy, slander, fear. All those negative emotions can spread like poison, and if left unchecked, even the Ark could collapse from the inside. It is then that the commander relays the information gathered on Bophaus thus far. Leaving Anderson's office, the commander makes his way back towards the outpost, and along the way, he encounters a familiar voice.
Don't move. This might not kill you, but it'll hurt something fierce. Looks like you had another stay at the hospital. Be quiet and listen, or else I'll send you right back there. So you remember my name. How touching. Why else would I have a gun to the back of your head? Just wanted to see your face when I tell you. You are the saboteur that ruined my plans. Yet at the same time, you are the one who kept me from falling apart. Sure, you went all the way up to the surface to change the IP and sway the public, but I never imagined you'd go so far as luring Rapture straight to the Ark. The unidentified corpse. John Doe. The first person who railed against the dangers of NIKKE's being deprived of Nymph. Who do you think it is? It's really too bad it turned out like this. I wanted NIKKE phobia to spread.
While Crow is absolutely appalled by the commander's heroic deeds, she tells him that they aren't at the finale just yet, a statement that we'll see enacted in future chapters to come. She continues, tauntingly stating that even if the commander extinguishes the flames of all those negative emotions, the wick will still remain. All those emotions can easily fester even if the commander expels all evil. She proclaims it will spread even faster than before, and tells the commander not to get himself killed. For when that time comes, she wants to bring the commander's chapter in his story to an end. With this ominous warning, Crow lowers her gun and disappears into the darkness. Wrapping up this chapter, we recount the words Crow spoke to the commander. No matter how much she extinguishes the flames of hatred, new sparks will eventually ignite, repeating the cycle once again. We are met with Uni in the Outer Rim. She's disgruntled at the commander for once more saving another group of NIKKEs. Even though her Mihara was taken, the commander did all he could to save Matisse. As Uni continues to beat the floor with a metal pipe, tears begin to form down her face. Uni is entirely broken and in a helpless state. Her twisted worldview can be fixed, given the right person lent her a helping hand. Unfortunately, the person to find Uni in this state is Crow. Being shocked by Crow's sudden appearance, she states that they're on the same team, and despite both of them being NIKKE's submissless, they both despise Sewin. Crow manipulates Uni to enact one part of her grand scheme. Uni is able to track and capture raptures. However, that's not all she can capture. She also, according to Crow, can capture humans. This piques Uni's interest. While Uni plays a little dumb, Crow continues to twist poor Uni to her will by telling her how the commander went up to the surface to continue his quest for Bophaus, and tells Uni that she wants to lock Sewin up. The words Crow have spoken worm their way into an emotional and mentally unstable Uni, and she asks Crow what she must do. Crow's plan is simple: to make the Ark a prison. And with that, we wrap up chapter 18 of NIKKE's story. with a devious plan hatched from the embers of hatred. Hatred brewed from the events caused by the action of one single person. With the Commander encounters heading to the surface and Uni now under Crow's guidance, only time will tell what drastic events will happen next. NIKKE's story is incredibly complex, and we are finally at a point of divergence where several events begin to take place simultaneously. Did you enjoy this recap, and what did you find most surprising? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all in the next video. Jane.